Welcome back to Empire Law. I'm Abby, and today I'm here with Deborah Song from Empire Law. Good to have you back, Deborah.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, today we are zooming in on Norco. Norco sits at the SR 91 interchange, one of the most congested freeway interchanges in Southern California, and it has a unique mix of equestrian trails in the same city. Norco contracts with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department instead of running its own police force. So every response in town comes from the RCSD or the California Highway Patrol. We are going to break down both sides of the equation, the type of crash you were in and the type of injury you suffered, and how those two things together drive what your case is worth in Norco. Norco's mix of rural roads and high-speed freeway interchanges means crashes here can range from a low-speed bender to a high-energy collision someone do immediately after a car accident in Norco to protect a future compensation claim.
Document, take videos of everything. If you feel like the defendant is being combative, it's going to be a situation where they're disputing liability. Make sure to record them on video, collect all the registration, driver's license, insurance information, collect all the photos. Even when you're rear-ended, take a picture of the backside of that other car, because a lot of times I hear the other driver end up saying, oh, I was actually pushed into this person by some hit and run driver. You always want to take a picture of the back of their car to prove that there was no other car that ran into them first. Pictures of everything, videos. And after you gather all of that, call the police. Even you don't feel anything at the time, because usually you're rushed with adrenaline. Let them know that you're injured, because if you don't say you're injured, they usually won't come out, and they'll tell you to trade and exchange information with the other person. Then that can become a problem later, because you don't have a third party documenting everything. Tell them you're hurt so that they can come out, and then afterwards the doctor if you're hurt.
Crash type is the first variable that shapes a case. Different crashes create different liability defaults and pull from different evidence sources. How does the type of crash you were in, rear end, T-bone, freeway pileup, shape your compensation claim in Norco?
Rear enders are usually pretty on the easy end. There's a presumption that the person who did the rear ending, the car in the back, is usually the one at fault. And then the car in the back has the burden to prove that is at fault. There are situations like I was talking about earlier. Sometimes they claim that there was this ghost car that rear-ended them first. And you have T-bone and head-on, both of those, there can be liability issues, because a red light, green light situation, it's a four-way stop sign. Who stopped, who didn't stop, who was supposed to go first situation. And in head-on collision, it's usually somebody went onto oncoming traffic, and that's usually what causes a head-on. So depending on who went onto oncoming traffic, that's usually where the dispute lies. And so it does affect the compensation claim if you don't have proof that the innocent driver didn't run the red light, didn't run the stop sign, didn't go oncoming traffic. And the freeway pileup, those are similar to rear end situations. It can get a little bit more complicated if you have multiple impacts. If you felt more than one impact, that means there's more than one driver at fault for your injuries. So that can add complications to your claim, because you have two insurance companies you can pull from. You just have to figure out which two. An attorney can help you figure that out as well.
California's fault rule is one of the most plaintiff-friendly in the country, and it directly shapes how every Norco shared fault case gets valued. How does California's pure comparative negligence rule affect a Norco crash where both drivers fault?
In a situation where both of the drivers are at fault, depending on how much the other driver has compared to you when it comes to percentages, you are allowed to recover the amount of your damages that you are not at fault for. So for example, if it's a 50-50 situation, he said, she said, the other driver is accepting 50% liability and the case is worth $100, then you are entitled to receive up to $50, 50% of your full case value. It's everything. You can still recover something. And even if it's 1% that you're at fault 99%, you can still recover on that 1%. Now, if you may not want to end up pursuing it if it is $1, but you are entitled to pursue any claim as long as you have even 1% of liability against you.
And evidence preservation is what separates a strong claim from a contested one. And Norco's specific roadway geography means certain evidence sources are more common or more important here than in other parts of the IE. What matters most in a Norco car accident claim?
There's a lot of spots in Norco that don't have asphalt. It's not a paved road, or it could be a paved road, but it's just dirt road. And there's no line of demarcation of what's the left side, what's the right side of road. Some of them just one lane and you have to wait for the other car to come by. In places like Norco, if you frequent those areas often, I highly recommend getting a dash cam, because in a situation like that, it's not about lane change. You don't even know where the lane is. So typical California vehicle code may not apply and becomes a reasonable person standard. The only way to find out what a reasonable person would have done in that situation is to look at the video and see what actually transpired and say, okay, there's no rule on this, but looking at the video, it seems like this guy was coming down the hill really fast on the dirt road and he was making the turn, and I think he should have been going slower or something like that. So I would say having dash cam, if you're frequenting those areas pretty often, is going to be the best evidence.
And you serve clients across the entire IE. Norco has a profile that differs from Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario, or the rest of the region. What different from other Inland Empire crashes?
The dirt road that I was talking about earlier, they don't have actual lines of demarcation of what lane is what and things of that nature. The other thing you had actually mentioned earlier is that Norco doesn't have its own police department that writes up the police reports. Sometimes, I know we were talking about the Riverside Sheriff's Department, but the Jurupa Valley Police comes out to write those reports. And the ones that I've seen where the Jurupa Valley officer says no good, they never write their reports. If you do end up getting into a car accident, try your best to call the Riverside Sheriff's Department, because they have stronger deadlines and they have stronger protocols that they need to police report writing, because otherwise you'll be stuck with the Jurupa Valley Police Department and they don't even give you like an ETA on their reports. So you could be waiting for a year and then they'll never get to it. That, I would say, that's another important distinction in Norco compared to the rest of the IE.
All right, that covers the crash side, the SR91, I-15 interchange, equestrian area roads, the RCSD only response, and now let's pivot to the injuries those crashes produce and how each injury type drives the dollar value of a case. So how do soft tissue injuries like whiplash affect a Norco compensation claim?
If you tell the insurance company, usually you won't say that. Usually the adjusters will be the ones to bring it to your attention and they might call it a soft tissue themselves. But the moment you admit to it being a soft tissue is where your case goes to die. Now married into this lower tier of their insurance reserves. And when I say reserves, is insurance companies, depending on what injuries you are claiming, they kind of have a general idea, a range of settlement that they're going to authorize to give you on that claim. So the more you can tell the insurance companies about your injuries and the more details you can go into without saying it's soft tissue, without agreeing that it's soft tissue, the higher chances that your claim will make it up the rankings with and the ladder of the different reserve levels. I would say if you can get an attorney, then it's probably better, because then I never like clients talking to insurance companies in the first place. And the more you talk, the worse it is, because I don't know what's going to be coming out of your mouth. But we can control that, and we would always like to give out information, those trigger words that bring your case value up and up compared to soft tissue injuries where it's like at the lowest bottom ranking of the compensation claims.
And then catastrophic injuries are the other end of the spectrum. So, how do traumatic brain injuries and spinal cord injuries impact compensation and litigation timelines in Norco?
So once you've notated the adjuster and you let them know that you have a traumatic brain injury, most clients don't really know this. Most doctors don't tell them that they have a traumatic brain injury. Common keywords that you'll hear from your doctor is you're suffering from a concussion. You are experiencing neurocognitive deficits, which is going to be things like loss of appetite, dizziness, blurry vision, loss of balance, confusion, misplacing items, ringing in the ears, things of that nature, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to noise. If you're noticing anything like that, stuff that triggers a traumatic brain injury. And spinal cord injuries will usually come into play if you are experiencing numbness or tingling going down any part of your body from your spinal source. So usually it'll be the neck, and you'll have radiating or numbness, tingling going down, let's say a shoulder, both shoulders, down the traps, going down the limbs. Some people, it goes all the way down to one of their fingers or multiple fingers. And same thing with the low back. It could go down the buttock. It could go down the thighs. It can go down all the way to your toes. But usually those signs where there's pain coming from the spine and it's traveling somewhere else is indication that you have a spinal cord injury, and that does give you a different ranking when it comes to the reserves in the insurance world. It has a higher value than, let's say, a soft tissue whiplash injury.
Okay, then let's go into the medical records being the backbone of every claim. And the timing of treatment matters as much as the records themselves. So, how do medical records, treatment gaps, and maximum medical improvement affect the timing and value of a Norco settlement?
So medical records come with the treatment. If you go get treatment, there will most likely be a medical record associated with them, as long as you're going to someone who's an authorized healthcare professional. If you're just going to like your friend's house and somebody who happens to be some kind of nurse and get an evaluation from them, most likely they're not going to be putting any medical records together for you. So make sure you're going to a place that is a medical facility, and make sure you're going at least within that first week. If you're waiting for injuries to come and you're waiting for your injuries to get worse, and you don't experience anything within that first week, I would still recommend going to the urgent care just to make sure that you're okay. Because then at least that'll close what we call treatment gaps. And insurance companies, whenever they see any kind of gap in treatment from the moment of the accident up until you're fully recovered, it leaves room of uncertainty for them. And insurance companies don't like uncertainty. When they see uncertainty, they start filling in the blanks with other stuff. And so they'll say, oh, anything could have happened within this first month that they didn't go see the doctor. They probably tweaked their back when they were deadlifting at the gym, or they probably tweaked their back when they were gardening in their backyard or something like that. So any kind of way to close that gap in treatment, if the doctor recommends you to do anything, like you go to urgent care, they say go to the PCP, even though you don't want to, just make that appointment, do it. Make sure you follow the doctor's instructions, do everything. Because the moment you don't listen to the doctor, the adjusters will say, okay, well, he's not hurt. That's why they didn't follow the doctor's instruction.
Then the first offer is almost always insultingly low, and there is a method behind how adjusters arrive at it. How do California insurance companies actually calculate Norco settlement offers, and how do you push back on a lowball?
They typically will take your medical bills. They will reduce those medical bills. They'll say those medical bills are inflated. They'll say those medical bills are unreasonable, and they compare it to Medicare, Medi-Cal standards. When they do that, they're just finding any ways to make the number as low as possible. So they'll reduce your medical bills. They'll say, okay, I'll only approve of this much because this is a reasonable medical bill. And then here's your lost wages, and you can show them with the pay stubs, and then they'll add that together. And then Usually they'll throw all of that in a software, and then the software will spit out a number for the adjuster to present to you. And that first number is usually always a lowball offer. So you should never accept the first offer. But depending on the number that's thrown out, if it's not the policy limits, if it's not everything that they have available to them, and if they're claiming it is everything that they have available to them, it's usually going to be a solid number. It's either going to be like a 30,000, a 50,000, 100,000, something like that. It'll be a very clear number. And if it's not a clear number, then that means there's more room for them to give you. Their first number is always a number that they always leave themselves a wiggle room to negotiate. So that means there's always more. And to push back on that, I would say you should probably leave that up to an attorney if you don't know how to push back. But a good way to ask is, what is your reasoning behind this number? Adjusters should be able to give you a breakdown. This is how I came up with this number. I accepted this XYZ. I did not accept this because blah, blah, blah. So if there's ever situations where they're like, okay, they didn't accept XYZ, then you can go back and try to rebut that and tell them why they should be accepting XYZ. But usually it's better for an attorney to be involved because sometimes the offer's too low and it's better to just file the lawsuit instead of continuing to negotiate.
Okay, then this is a practical question every listener wants answered. When should a Norco crash victim hire an attorney, and what should they look for?
I think a person should maybe not hire an attorney. So I would say reach out. Bottom line is reach out. That's the first thing you should do. Whether you hire them or not usually will come based off of what the attorney's telling you. And the problem is, I don't know if the attorney's being honest or not. If the attorney is being honest and they think this is a case that you can handle on your own, then normally the attorney will say, hey, this is a case that you can handle on your own. If not, they will want your case and they'll say, hey, you should hire us because XYZ. So if an attorney is trying to get you to hire them, that's usually a good sign as far as your case goes, because if they want your case, that means they see potential compensation that's worth their time and their energy that they're about to invest into your case. So you can take that as you will, whether you want to hire an attorney or not. If there are issues with your case, the attorney will normally point it out, be like, hey, we'll take your case, but here's some obstacles that we're going to have to overcome. I would say if there's any kind of obstacle, just hire an attorney, because more likely it's not something that you're going to be able to overcome on your own without their help. As far as what you should be looking for, you should probably be asking the attorney, when you are talking to somebody, make sure that the person you're talking to is an attorney. Because a lot of times, sometimes they're not. And even if they're not, it's okay, because a lot of these attorneys, even when they're really good, they get really busy, so they have to have help to answer questions. But whoever you're about to hire, make sure you feel comfort when you are talking to them and you feel 100% confident in their ability. Usually that'll come with the way they communicate with you, the information they provide you, and the answers they give to you for any questions that you have. If the answers are very detailed and they can actually make you understand the situation, you understand what they're talking about, that's usually a good sign, because that means they know what they're talking about too. It's good enough to be able to explain it to you. But if the answer is very vague and they don't seem to make you feel at ease with that answer to your question, then normally that's a bad sign. Normally that means they don't really know. But you want to make sure that whoever you're signing up with, you trust that they're going to be able to take care of your case, because most likely it's going to be a long-term relationship, depending on how long it takes for you to recover. So you want to make sure that you have that good relationship with that person and you can trust that person if you're going to hire them.
Something that you've been so good at is explaining these hard to tackle subjects and making them easy to understand. So Deborah, this has been a really tight, focused breakdown for the Norco listener. For someone in Norco who has been in any kind of car accident or anywhere around town, what is one thing that you want them to remember?
Get a dash cam. If you haven't already and you haven't been in an accident, get a dash cam now. It's super cheap on Amazon. They're like $20, $30. Make sure it has an SD card. A lot of these dash cams, they don't come with SD cards. So if they don't, buy the SD card, make sure to put that in, or else it's not recording anything. If you do get into an accident, talk to an attorney, because talking to an attorney will let you know more information, and it'll give you more insight on how to navigate your case, whether it's with an attorney or not. At least if you talk to one, it's like getting a free legal advice. It's just a law library. So you talk to them, you get the information you need, and you do with it what you will. Whether you hire them or not, at least you'll have information and education moving forward to make an informed decision.
And if someone in Norco wants to talk to you about their car accident, what is the best way to reach Empire Law?
You can always call us at 951-456-3891. I know we have a texting number as well. This is a 657 number, but you can go to our Google business page, and if you want to chat on there, that goes to our texting number. We have our emails, info@Empire, ATTY. And then if you go to our website, you can also fill in the intake form. So lots of ways to reach us. Or if you're here in Norco, actually, if you're nearby, you can always just walk down. We're here in Hamner. We're right across the street from the Cobbler, and I think it's called Fire Grill 150, and the gas station. And we're next to the Norco Funeral Home. So we're nearby. You can always come here. We're on the second floor.
All right, so if you have been in a car accident in Norco on the SR 991, I-15 interchange, or anywhere else in town, and you are not sure what to do next, make that call. You can find Empire Law at www.inlandinjury.com or call them directly at 951-456-3891. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of Empire Law.